What up, patrons? How are you guys doing? I put out a message earlier today saying that I'm going to... What up, guys? It's Travis, American Butcher, a.k.a. I don't know why I said it like that. I am being honest. I did a mashup of all of our previous Christmas episodes. Please enjoy. They're in chronological order. I don't know how long this podcast is going to be, but I don't know, Christmas is coming up. People are like, ask people what they're doing online. I'm trying to be more active, and they're like, oh, I'm busy, blah, 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 blah. And people are always asking for the meat block material, and I just released an episode saying how it's coming back. But I want to do this because it is fun. I think these episodes were amazing. And maybe this helps get you through the holiday season. So stay safe, stay protected, wear your mask, and bye.
What up, meatheads? Welcome to the Meat Block. This is our Christmas episode. This episode, we're going to be talking about different dishes found all over the world, and Ryan and David are going to have pieces about that later. I am going to just give you a brief history of the holiday from more of a secular standpoint, not from a Christian standpoint. This is Xmas, not Christmas. Enjoy.
Good cutting enhances the quality of good meat. In his way, the meat cutter is an artist. Poor cutting results in an inferior piece of meat, regardless of quality.
The Christmas tree. It's a very recognizable image. It has a meme. It is almost synonymous with pine trees. When we see that perfectly shaped pine, Douglas fir, or noble, any time of year, we immediately think of Christmas. Even if it's just out in the woods or on a pitcher. The Christmas tree is actually just a new tradition, only taking root in the last 150 years. Christmas trees, candy cans, even Santa Claus feel like they've been around forever, although they are surprisingly recent. So please join us as we talk about a pagan holiday that started in Rome and how this season has become much to do with shopping as it has to do with Christ. It's a story everyone knows. After a rude refusal by a local innkeeper, Mary and Joseph bedded down in a local barn in Bethlehem. The next day, Mary gave birth to a son, the Son of God. And those are the origins of Christmas. Hope you enjoyed the show. Actually, years before Christ walked the earth, early Europeans were celebrating light and birth in the darkest days of winter. In the Norse country, around December 21st was the winter solstice, known as Yule. Sons and fathers would grab the biggest piece of wood or tree and drag it to their home or community and burn it to help them stay alive during the darkest, longest, coldest night of the year. As the Yule log burned, they said each spark represented a pig or a calf that was going to be born in the spring. And they knew if they survived the longest night and coldest night, they were going to have a successful year. Also dragged inside was evergreens. Evergreens were the only plant that can make it through the dark winter. They viewed the evergreen as hope, showing if this plant can make it through the darkest times, so can they. There's a natural attraction to something that could survive such a harsh environment. As long as the Yule log burned, it was a time of celebration and revelry. It was the only time of year where meat was abundant, because they just harvested their livestock, knowing they could not survive the winter. These celebrations and Yule log burnings averaged about 12 days, and during this time, it was a great feast and a time to party. The only animals kept alive was the breeding stock. The party raged inside, in defiance, a big middle finger to winter. There is a certain kind of lore around the Yuletide celebration. Inside with the Norse mythology, you are warm, you're protected. Outside is dark, there are spirits. The earth is trying to kill you. In Germany, they were fearful of Odin. He decided who would prosper and who would perish in the next coming year. Later, this would manifest into another knight-riding mythical man known as Santa Claus. 1,000 miles to the south, the winters weren't as harsh in ancient Rome. But about a month before the solstice, they started celebrating an event called Saturnalia. This was a month-long celebration, an orgy, showing respect to the god Saturn, which translates to the god of plenty. Saturnalia was described as a time out of time by many historians, where roles would reverse. It was times for masters to become the slave, and slaves to become a master, during this hedonistic holiday celebration. While the lower classes were celebrating Saturnalia, upper-class Romans celebrated Mithra, the god of the sun. At that time in that part of the world, December 25th, was the birthday of Mithra. It was also the winter solstice. Mithra was said to be born from a rock, and shepherds flocked to worship the newborn sun god. Many correlations from these early accounts represent a new religion that was coming of age around the same time in the Roman Empire. At first, Christians didn't celebrate the birth of Christ. His resurrection was the quintessential fact of their religion. Around the time of the 4th century, his birth had undecidedly become a focal point of their religion. The fact of his birth was no longer in question, but when it was still up for debate. Some historians believe Jesus was most likely born in the spring. One example of this is that shepherds were out in the fields during the account. Most shepherds in that time of year in that part of the world would most likely not be out tending to a herd if it was in the dead of winter. The celebration of Mithra happening on December 25th was a huge celebration in the region, and it made sense for Christians back then to celebrate the birth of the Christ child at the same time. And it was declared in Christianity that December 25th would be marked as the feast day of the Nativity. The celebration of Mithra's birthday was more of a celebration of fertility and celebrating anew. When celebrating a new religion and the birth of a new Son of God made sense to the Christians at the time. The church, knowing that they couldn't outlaw the pagan celebration, adopted some of it. The trees now brought inside were decorated with apples and other things representing life. Christmas evolved into a decadent holiday in Europe, with hedonistic acts that may be unspeakable in some households. During the debauchery, a peasant or a small poor boy was usually chosen by the party to represent them in what he would be called the Lord of Unrule. Many religious groups outlawed Christmas outright. Oliver Cromwell, leading the Puritans, overruled the king's forces in 1645 and outlawed Christmas. The Puritans are sure a fun group of people. In their quest to rid England of all that was decadent, on December 25th, they made churches stay closed and merchants stay open. This did not stop the celebration. It just made it go underground. If Christmas pie was to be outlawed, then a new pie called mince pie became popular. What the Puritans could not fight or outlaw was the need for Christmas, the need for a celebration during the dark times of the year, the need to look forward to the light. The reason the monarchy was restored in the 17th century was because English citizens could live without the monarchy, but they could not live without Christmas. Reinstating them would bring back the holiday and banish the laws of the Puritans. The fight for Christmas may have been lost in England, but the Puritans had new hopes for the colonies in America. But little did they know that these Puritans heading over in 1620 would result in America's second best celebrated holiday. So, epic fail. Some colonists embraced the celebration, such as Captain John Smith, leader of the Jamestown Party, recorded that their first Christmas was a success, with waterfowl, oysters, and making its first appearance in Christmas is eggnog. Nog is the word for grog, which is any drink made from rum. So if your eggnog doesn't have rum in it, then you're doing it wrong. Flash forward to America's independence, where most things Europe or European fell out of favor. This included Christmas, where for about 65 years, Congress would sit in session during what is now known as the holiday. As the 19th century dawned, Christmas would be one holiday that would help pull the nation together. It wouldn't be the carnival Christmas of old England, and it also wouldn't be particularly religious. And America did what we do best. We took something people already started doing and made it better, and then said, "This is how you do it, world," and everyone followed. In the 1820s, as a result of the Industrial Revolution, there became a class divide in America and parts of Europe, where the lower class would celebrate the dark times of winter and the celebration of Christmas by rioting against the upper class. As a result of this, popular writers at the time, such as Charles Dickens, with Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, Washington Irving's Gracebrook Hall, both these stories showed how people, regardless of class and wealth, should come together in celebration in a time to reflect on the year that has happened and the year to come and what we are thankful for. And by solving the problem, what do we owe to the people in our lives? What do we owe to our family and our fellow man? We owe them decency and respect. And both of these convergent stories helped the Victorian people think about their own conversion, to think about how they could be helpful. As a result of these popular tales, 19th century Americans were discovering Christmas after a 200-year drought of Puritan rule. Around the 1830s, family dynamics changed, where before then families were essentially little factories to make workers to help on the farm or start working as soon as they could to help provide for the family. Around this time, it shifted to more of a communal, where parents were giving nurture and love to their children. And the popularity of Christmas allowed this. It allowed you to spoil your children once a year without overly doing it. And being a father, I could say that the gifts I give my son, I'm really giving to myself. Seeing him light up, seeing his response, and then my selfishness of giving him things that I would like to play with is really what I enjoy about the holiday. Victorians knew why they were celebrating Christmas, but they really didn't know how to do it. Some of the pagan revelry would not really suit this modern society, but some aspects did, such as the Christmas tree. In 1848, the London News published a drawing of the royal family gathered around a Christmas tree. This made its way to America. As a result of this allowed people to say, why do we have a Christmas tree? Well, this is the way we did it in Europe. This is the way we did it in Germany. This is the way we did it in England. When in fact, the tradition in America isn't that old. As time grew on, the old traditions of the Machiavellian decadent Christmas fell to the wayside. Except for one, mistletoe. It was improper for a man to kiss a woman in Victorian era if they weren't married, but this plant allowed it. Mistletoe is a small shrub parasite, which is also an evergreen that can be found on over 100 different types of plants. It latches on to a host tree and takes advantage of it, just like many of the people that use mistletoe to be creepy. I myself have never had to rely on a plant to help me with the women, although my mistletoe belt buckle doesn't hurt. By the later half of the 19th century, Christmas took over America, but the only place it couldn't be found was inside the Protestant church. As a result of this, Victorian-era Americans were looking for a way to recognize it in a religious sense. Their faith started wandering. They wanted to see how the Catholics were observing this holiday, in some cases, those crazy Episcopalians. The Protestant church and Baptist church were fearful of this, of losing members. As a result, Latter-day Puritan and churches started recognizing December 25th as a holiday. Now that we had the Christmas tree, mistletoe, and the church recognizing it, the only thing Christmas was missing was a voyeuristic, fat, jolly man to spy on our children and sneak into our houses once a year. America is great at taking other cultures and making it uniquely our own. We took the Christmas tree from Germany, the Christmas card from England, but Santa Claus, as we know him today, was created by America and Coca-Cola. Now, Old Saint Nick is referred to as Saint Nicholas, an old Greek Orthodox bishop who became popular in the Middle Ages. On December 6th, good children awoke with gifts from the kind saint, while bad children sulked with nothing. In Holland, he was referred to as Sinterklaas, and when the Dutch came to America, tales of their version of St. Nicholas came with them. He would leave treats and presents in their shoes that they left outside. These stories caught the imagination of Clement Clark Moore, a writer and a poet, and Episcopal minister in New York City. Moore wrote a poem about the good-hearted saint, where he comes down your chimney on Christmas Eve and leaves toys for good little girls and boys. The wooden shoes were changed to stockings, and they were hung by the fire with care. And that poem, of course, is, "'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse." This poem also gave us the names of all the reindeer as well as the iconic image of Santa going down the chimney. One interesting fact about Moore in his poem is the fact that he was a minister, and the poem has no reference to God or Jesus. As a result of this, Moore was embarrassed by his work and tried to keep it a secret, and also published it under a pseudonym. Moore later admitted to writing the poem and taking the credit, after it swept the nation and it was clear that every child in America was staying up late and scanning the horizon for the midnight visitor. But they didn't know what they were looking for. At this point, it was unclear what Santa Claus or Saint Nick looked like. In many variations of stories, he came in all shapes and sizes, was an elf or a gnome. And in one story, he was a fat alcoholic who rode a sleigh driven by turkeys. I wish that is the version we had today. And maybe that is the version I'm going to tell to my children. You better watch out, you better not cry, or a fat, obese alcoholic will tell you why. Then the chorus will go something with sequence of gobbles, drunken cartoon belches and hiccups, and slurring of some kind. Feel free to write the song and record it and give it to me. But the Santa we know today image is taken straight from the robber barons, a wealthy upper-class, bearded gentleman who is a captain of industry, but in reverse. But Santa rewarded people regardless of their achievements, especially children. Instead of gathering wealth, he gets rid of wealth, and he does it yearly. Maybe that's why Santa is wearing red. But he was a gift to retailers. Here's a man that can make you buy anything at Christmas and make it feel like you weren't buying gifts at all. Because Christmas presents don't exist in the marketplace. They exist in pure domestic affection. Santa's image alone could boost sales. But what about if Santa was there at the department store for you? And your parents took you there, and you get to tell Santa what you want. Then your parents get to hear what you want. And by some remarkable coincidence, your parents are at a place that may have that very item. The store Santa has been around since the mid-1800s. So it makes sense to have America's national saint, copied and pasted and recreated across America, giving old bikers a job once a year. The image of Santa that we have, everyone has, I imagine, was created by author Gene Shepard, the writer of A Christmas Story. His story was autobiographical and depicted his account of growing up in the Midwest and dealing with the anxiety and the eagerness and the wanting to meet Santa Claus. And like Ralphie's little brother, every time I take my son to meet a stranger with a beard, he cries and I get an amazing picture of it. How about a nice football? Santa obviously needed a sidekick, and a copywriter at the Montgomery Ward department store came up with a promotional children's story that gave him such the sidekick. It was a story about an ostracized reindeer with a shiny red nose that even in the original story, Santa is kind of a dick to. I always think it's weird that it was one foggy Christmas night. If you think about every Christmas, there is most likely fog somewhere in the world, and as long as Santa has been doing this, he may have needed to find a solution before he met Rudolph. Now, trying to find logic and sense in a children's story is not why I'm here. And that pretty much brings us to the modern era. From Montgomery Ward to Washington Irving, Christmas was fought and won by children.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose. And if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to laugh.
This next piece is by Ryan. He's going to talk about what they eat on the holidays in other parts of the world.
What meat cuts are most valuable? I like to try to deconstruct my own assumptions about what is valuable. Unconsciously, we all assign value to everything in our world, with higher value items being elevated as more worthy of our time and lower value items being minimized as less worthy. This is human nature to do this kind of prioritizing and time management. In my home life, I arrive upon a set of ideas about where my time and energy is best spent, and I organize my efforts to maximize these high-value activities. Sometimes the value I give things is grounded in wisdom and years of conscious forethought. Other times, I unconsciously assign a value that I learned, a value I learned from peers or family or culture. When I finally am able to awaken to some of these deeper unconscious assumptions I'm making reflexively, it's nice to bring them into the light, to explore them with fresh eyes, roll them around in my head to determine anew if I was assigning a useful value to them or not. In the meat world, there is much value assigning. Grading systems tell us about marbling. Things like heritage breed labeling tells us about some of the genetics involved. The realities of supply and demand grease the machinery that determine which parts of these animals are valuable and why. Every label, every grade, every advertisement is in place to not only give us information, but also to influence our ideas about quality. An impression of quality will determine the value we assign to it. When it comes to eating and cooking beef, first, I learned that tenderloin was the best cut, filet mignon. Then I learned that real butchers prefer ribeye and hate tenderloin. I learned that from starting to hang out in butcher shops. Then I learned about craft butchery cuts, seam butchery cuts, European cuts, and I began to prefer things like the oyster steak and Denver steaks, etc. Then I discovered the flavor possible from braising and slow cooking, which turned everything on its head for me. Everyone has their own journey with favorite beef cuts. Currently, I've arrived at a very egalitarian perspective that aims to see all cuts as equally capable of resulting in an outstanding eating experience. There is no lesser cut. Even the lowliest seeming cuts are capable of true magnificence. When seen through this lens, every cut presents a riddle, and the focus becomes finding the correct culinary preparation to reveal the true magnificence of that cut. All right, Ryan, that sounds great and all, but come on, buddy. What about the shitty cuts? Cuts like eye round or mock tender. There's clearly no hope for those cuts. Eye of round. I am glad you asked. Fortunately, humans are brilliant. In South America, butcher shops hoard the eye of round in preparation for the holidays in the same way that American butcher shops hoard rib roasts. Huh? Yes, you heard me correctly. Eye of round, called piqueto, has a very high value. It is more in demand around the holidays than any other cut, and it's more expensive than any other cut. Tenderloin is called lomo, and it doesn't even come near the status that eye of round or piqueto has on most holidays. So butcher shops stock up on it as holiday time approaches because everyone and their brother is going to come try to buy one. Are they daft in South America? No, man. They just have a great recipe and a great tradition surrounding this cut. South Americans eat more beef than Americans per capita and have an incredibly strong enthusiasm for their beef culture. We got my man Chris O'Brien in Uruguay right now. Chris O'Brien, he took a year off of work as a butcher in the States and is doing stints in different butcher shops around the world. First he was in Japan, then he was in Australia, where he told me he was very impressed with the robust butcher culture he witnessed there. Then he was in Argentina, and now Uruguay. Everyone should follow this dude on Instagram. His handle is @chris.o. That's CHRIS.OH. Chris.o. Chris and I first started corresponding because of our mutual interest in another popular South American cut known in the States as elephant ear, rose meat, or wiggle meat, or cutaneous trunk eye. This would be the matambre cut. Matambre is the Argentine name for this piece of meat from the flank. The word matambre translates to kill hunger. That's what matambre means. To kill hunger. And it is aptly named because Argentine folks create a food bomb from this thing that will feed a family of 5 for a whole week. They season it and stuff this cut with veggies and hard-boiled eggs. Then they roll it all up, tie it with string, and either slow roast it or braise it, sometimes in water, sometimes in milk. They do this, low and slow for a certain amount of time. Every region and sub-region has its own variants. Every family does it its own way. It may sound strange to American eaters, but once you get used to this idea, the idea of this matambre cut, your mind will be blown at how brilliant it is. Here's a cut, matambre, cutaneous trunk eye, that has little to no value in the United States. I can't stress that enough. It is barely noticed. It only goes into the grind, turns into burger in the United States. And yet, in Argentina, it flies off the shelf. You go into a butcher shop in Argentina and ask for matambre, and they might not have it because everyone you know and all your neighbors are trying to buy a matambre from them also. People are fucking stoked about it, and rightly so. Chris O'Brien shared with me some great recipes for matambre that he learned from hanging out in butcher shops in Argentina. I'll share those in another episode. But let's get back to the piqueto, the eye of round, because we're talking about holiday roasts here. So here's what Chris has to say about piqueto. This is from an email he sent me. The 2 most popular dishes I've heard of are vitel toné, also known as the Italian vitello tonato. It's piqueto boiled in water with herbs and spices, then left to cool in its own juices. The sauce is a homemade mayonnaise, basically with lots of lemon, anchovy, and capers, sometimes made with tuna. The piqueto is sliced and covered in the tonata sauce and chilled for hours, then served. It's a classic Italian veal dish, but the Argentines use it probably because they're most commonly using vacuna, or year-old beef. The most common use of piqueto, though, is slicing it, stuffing it, rolling it, and tying it, then braising it. Basically a braciole. All right, so yeah, Chris O'Brien @chris.oh on Instagram. You got to follow this guy. So apparently at most holidays in Argentina, the asado, or the grilled meats, still provide the main course for the meal. Piqueto, prepared as vitel toné, would be served as a decadent appetizer. And as with every dish, each region will have their own variants in how they like to prepare it. So as I'm thinking about this dish that Chris O'Brien's telling me about, I contacted my friend Pablo and asked him about the dish vitel toné. Now, Pablo and his wife are from Argentina. They live in the States now, but they're people I go to when I have questions about Argentine cooking. I asked them why it's so similar to the Italian vitello tonnato, which is made with veal, and like a tuna mayonnaise. They explained to me, that central Argentina is an area of predominantly northern Italian descent, Piedmontese descent, which is the Piedmont region of northern Italy. So there are a lot of similar foods, similar dishes that you see people preparing in Argentina that stem from the northern Italian culinary traditions. Another dish that they do a lot, very popular in Argentina, is called bagna quada, which is like a fondue-like hot dip. Pablo and his wife were gracious enough to share a few recipes for the vitel toné, for the eye round dish, which I will post on the Meat Block Facebook group. I'll post a couple of those so you guys can check them out, get a better idea of what I'm talking about here. I hope this has been interesting to you. This kind of stuff is so fascinating to me, so mind-blowing. I absolutely love it. I would love to have an Argentine friend that lived near me that could cook this stuff for me.
And rounding off the show, here's David.
Here we are at the tail end of the holiday gauntlet for the meat service industry. Most of us are ass-deep in standing rib roasts, hams, turkeys, and concerningly lean briskets. I feel as if I was mostly turned off to those foods during the holidays because of my involvement with them. If by chance someone's holiday spread featured anything unusual, say quail, short ribs, pork back ribs, hog maw, etc., I'd be enthusiastically in for breaking tradition. It's nice to see different proteins on the table. Over the years, I've become aware of a few seasonal delicacies from around the globe that really rejuvenated my excitement for holiday protein dishes. And they've also really provided me with some interesting things to bring to a friend's potluck. While I may be accused of cultural appropriation here, I promise that I take no credit for any of these recipes, and we'll post some links to some really great versions of them, and maybe even some restaurants that serve them. The first of these recipes I became aware of many years ago at a Sicilian restaurant that I worked in. The sous chef, let's call him Big A, had a dish that he added to our Christmas/New Year's brunch menu. It was cotechino and lentils, a dish with a cooked sausage served over a bed of lentils, cooked in a super gelatinous broth and seasoned heavily. It was hearty and perfect for fixing your brain and body after a long New Year's Eve hootenanny. Cotechino gets its name from the word cotica, which means rind, because the sausage mix contains minced and finely diced and blanched pork skin. You blanch the sausage and serve it over a copious amount of lentils. The traditional belief, according to a former customer of mine, Rosaria, who is from Florence, was that lentils bring good fortune for the coming year economically, because they sort of look like a big pile of coins, historically. I've usually seen this particular sausage stuffed inside a bung, a beef bung. However, I have another method that was a little easier to do because these materials were more easily found in the home or restaurant or butcher shop kitchen. Please, Italians, forgive me if this is blasphemous, but it's a great method for those of us that don't have access to beef bung. Basically, you're making a torchon out of sausage, which is it's kind of like a cylindrical log that's been torqued down in the style of almost like a Tootsie Roll or a piece of candy, if you can imagine that sort of wrapping. Basically, you season your pork trim, You want a nice coarse grind on it. And a recipe for this particular seasoning will be posted on our Facebook group by the time this comes out for you to check out. You lay out a double layer of saran wrap. I suggest doing a square, maybe 14 to 18 inches, just so you have plenty of room to work. You want to lay out your seasoned sausage block in a hand-formed cylinder on the plastic, lengthwise left to right, on the side of the plastic nearest you. You then roll the meat up in the plastic wrap, almost as if you were making a sushi roll. There's lots of videos of this technique on YouTube. It's called making a torchon. Shank muscles without cutting the skin. You kind of stick your knife down into it and skin around. You then roll the skin back like a sock, exposing the full shank. Saw the shank off or joint it at the joint where it meets the foot. You then roll the skin back up and stuff it with your sausage mix. You then sew or truss the open end with the twine. From there, you boil the whole thing until it's fully cooked and tender. You'll end up slicing it to serve, but I really prefer to present the whole stuffed trotter with the foot on over the lentils for the full effect. This technique was taught to me by Ham Saw Joe, the Juice Pig, a skilled meat cutter from Maine, who now lives down in barbecue country in the Carolinas. I highly suggest trying either of these dishes for your family because not only are they both very different, but they're a lot of fun to prepare. And it might kind of rejuvenate your enthusiasm for holiday protein dishes. The other great part about these dishes is it allows you to move some other product that would normally kind of sit back on your racks during this season. We're generally just moving hams, turkeys, rib roasts, and whatnot. These other presentations look great in the case, and they're definitely a conversation starter with customers. And it's a great way to, again, move some of the product that will generally sit or need to be frozen until after the holiday. So go ahead and give these ones a try, and let us know if you end up using them in your case or just for your family. And happy holidays.
If we make it through December.
All right, meatheads, that's going to do it for our Winter is Trying to Kill Us episode. And the way I fight against the earth and the darkest, longest night of the year is by cutting down a tree and bringing it into my house and watching it slowly die. That's my fuck you, earth. I win. And if you enjoyed this episode of The Meat Block, I would love to hear from you. And if you want to get a hold of us, the best way to do that is email at themeatblockpodcast@gmail.com, tweet us at themeatblockpod, or Instagram at themeatblock. If you want to get a hold of, let's say, David, he is at A Farm Butcher on Instagram, Ryan is at Gather and Break on Instagram, and I am at American Butcher on Instagram and Facebook. We got a bunch of exciting stuff we're working on for future episodes, so if you like this show, or if you know someone else who may like this show, please tag us on social media by using the hashtag #TheMeatBlock, or tagging us directly by using @TheMeatBlock on Instagram, or inviting your friends and family to join our Facebook group, where we are having great conversations happening daily. And I want that page and that group to be a place where no one has to feel embarrassed for posting something, where people could ask for advice and there's no showboating, even though it's much fun as it is. And if you want to really, really help us out, the best way to do that is open up the Apple Podcast app, type in The Meat Block, leave 5 stars, leave a comment, please. It helps with the algorithm and get more people to find the show. Just like Bloom55, SPSS512, and Strix Specialty Meats, and Spagey Rick, I think, SPAGYRIC. I want to thank all those people for leaving 5 stars and a comment. And until next time, keep your knife sharp and live in the margin.
What up, meatheads? This is Travis, American Butcher, with this special holiday episode or Christmas episode of the Meat Block Podcast. I just want to welcome you. Let me just pause this party that I'm in the middle of. As you could hear, there's Jingle Bell Rock happening. It's like a Home Alone scene. I have Michael Jordan on a train track going around, but not really, actually. It's just me, and this is my phone playing in the background. I'll pause it, and Milo is rarely sleeping because I'm recording this Christmas Eve during the day. And if you didn't know, Milo sleeps during the day and harasses me at night. A lot of exciting stuff happening over here in the Pacific Northwest, because it's specifically over there. We had a huge windstorm, a couple houses down. Got hit pretty hard. I think their break walls ended up not working out so well, but luckily here at the home front, this 100-year-old fortress I live in stood strong against the 70-mile-an-hour winds.
Good cutting enhances the quality.
And I was just interrupted by the intro because I didn't put that track on mute.
Piece of meat, regardless of quality.
So we had this huge windstorm. And it was crazy. There was, where I live at on the edge of the sound, or actually live on the sound. But it's usually fairly calm. Like right now, it's water ski-like conditions. And it's a beautiful day. And I should actually be on the water catching some crabs. But it's a lot of work, and it's very cold. There was frost on my windshield this morning. But we had it was weird events. It was a 13-foot tide that just kept on coming with one of the strongest windstorms we've had in several years. That combined with the tide being at peak tide, it was pushing swells. The swells were about 5 feet. Surf surge was about, additional 2 feet on top of that. And yeah, we had waves breaking on the bulkhead and the break wall. And luckily, I just got to clean my windows because they're covered in salt. But some of my neighbors got hit pretty hard, and, some places got flooded and totaled out, but we're good. Nothing. I lost all my Presto starter logs. That is the thing. I was storing them in a place, and they ended up getting wet. Now I got a set of logs. I have Presto starter dust. So I already did the intro of this holiday edition of the Meat Block Podcast. While you're sitting around with your family, or you could be itching to leave. I used to tend bar and bounce when I was in my younger, fitter days. And our busiest time of the year was Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And that's because people who come back into town visiting love their families. But they also want to be with the people they grew up with or that they missed. And some of them may just want an escape. So after hanging out with their families, they go to the local watering hole and tell stories of grandeur of the last time they were at their local watering hole. Because it is the season to drink and be merry, and to find merry and be drunk. And the reason we celebrate such holidays is right after the winter solstice. The longest day of the year is when winter is trying to kill you, and the day before the solstice is when that windstorm ravaged through the Pacific Northwest. And now we have our feast, and we celebrate because we have survived the longest days of the winter. We have survived the elements. I had stood in the wind's face and laughed, and I am still here. So I will get together with my family and feast ourselves. Usually on a prime rib. I know it's
Prime rib on Christmas makes me a basic bitch. But it is tradition and I do love it. We'll also be having a ham. Tonight we're going to go over to one set of in-laws' house and regale and tell stories. Come home and Harrison will open up his Christmas gifts from us. Then he'll go to bed. And in the sleeping hours, a stranger will sneak into our house who voyeuristically watches over my children, or child, leaves presents, and he will open those ones in the morning. That's how my family did it. That's how my brother family continues to do it. And it's again with these traditions. So in this episode, I wanted to know what you, the listener, were up to, and interesting things about your holidays, traditions, and stories. So using the online network that I have through social media and Instagram, I asked what people were having for Christmas dinner. And here are some of the responses I got. Prime rib export. That sounds great. A lot of people out there are having prime rib. One thing I didn't realize is that prime rib, yes, as a identifier of a cut, some places label like a prime rib ribeye steak as the prime rib being the bone-in cut name, which I find can be deceiving. Someone said a tofu shaped into a rib roast. My response to that is just very simple. Are you going to have disappointment for dessert? Other people are having beef Wellington. Now, I do love a good beef Wellington. And when I worked retail, we would make these things for customers, and it was very difficult to make a beef Wellington that was ready for the consumer to just heat up, because they often messed it up. One person responded and said they're having tamales. I love tamales. I remember when I was living in Southern California, where I'm from, I bought tamales from a person off the street, and he gave me some, and I came back, or I didn't come back, I ate them, and there was bones in it, and I was like, ugh, this is weird. And I didn't realize that is the traditional way that some people make it. So I was told maybe they were just telling me that because they wanted me to eat bones. Friend of the show, Erica, said she's having a Cuban roast, or a Cuban roasted pork, but no cajachina. People are saying beef, that's what's for dinner every night. Prime rib. Someone says a turkey with Spanish ricotta, sun-dried tomatoes with rosemary stuffing. That sounds great. Someone replied that they're having hot dogs to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And I feel like nothing is more appropriate than tube steak for such an event. Prime rib with Brussels sprouts and finger-leaf potatoes. And then they asked, what am I having? Thanks for asking about me. I'm having prime rib and ham, and probably some other things that I was told, but I forgot because I don't pay attention to details. And I like being genuinely surprised. And I think my mind is slipping because of the years of abuse I did when I was younger. I often find myself in the room and forgetting why I went in there in the first place. Move my eyes back and forth trying to trigger loose a memory to explain why I'm in the prediction I'm in. Good thing most of my cutting is muscle memory. Someone replied prime rib this year and every year. Someone replied roasted whitetail deer with wild leeks. Prime rib Duh is a response I got. Prime rib cold smoked and then oven roasted. That sounds pretty good. Clark Griswold is having gravy and meatballs and baked ziti. Sounds like it's a mixture of Greek and Swiss. Ham, turkey, carrots, fresh beans, Brussels sprouts, mashed and roasted potatoes. 2 types of potatoes. Gravy meatballs, as someone says. Some cut of lamb I'll cut up tomorrow. I like living at the seam of your pants on that one, not knowing exactly what you're going to have. Moving on. This is the time of year when we celebrate. And some of the best ways to celebrate is to buy tangible, physical items for our loved ones, the ones we care about. And other times we buy these items for our coworkers. The ones that we're not necessarily forced to be with every day, but ones where, you don't need to put the thought and the care and the love and the meaning behind a traditional gift you would give for someone that, say, you live with or that you're related to. But with such games as Yankee Swap, Dice Game, White Elephant, and other various Secret Santa versions of this game that allow anonymity in the gift giving or anonymity. That with the childlike immaturity of people in the meat industry, or that can be found in people in the meat industry, it allows for some pretty wild takes and inappropriate jokes and gifts. My first year working in this industry, we had a company party where we did a Secret Santa gift, where we drew a name out of the hat and had to buy that person something with a budget of $20 or less. I think the budget now should be $30. That's just me. I don't remember what I gave that year, nor do I remember what I received. That's not important to this story, and it didn't stand out to form this memory. But what I do remember is some colorful gifts exchanged around that company table in the break room the day before Christmas break, December of some years ago. With a $20 limit, I remember that someone received a gift card for $10 to McDonald's. I remember thinking to myself, well, that's disappointing. You think the gift certificate would be for the full amount of $20, or the equivalent of like when you buy gift certificates at Costco during certain times of the year when you could get like a $30 gift certificate for $20. But no, it was a $10 gift certificate with a max budget of $20. Hopefully they weren't expecting to supersize their meal. The next gift I remember someone receiving was a card that said Merry Christmas. And it was to our plant manager. He opened it up and everyone's like, what is it? What is it? And he just said nothing. Put the card in his pocket. But what I knew was there, because someone told me, was 2 Xanny bars taped to the card. I did not know the street value of this gift. Maybe it did not exceed the $20 limit. But knowing him
in his personality, I'm sure he used it and had himself a Merry Christmas. At the plant, we had this young woman who worked there who was about 19 years old. She was engaged, planning her wedding and looking forward to the future. She was a rapper. She worked in the industry with a bunch of men in a crude, sometimes unforgiving work environment. The person who drew her name was the only other female employee at the plant at the time. She was seasoned, didn't take shit from anybody, large and in charge. Knowing this, we thought it would be a great gift with a woman's touch. She got the present, not knowing who it was from, and opened up the pink bag inside to reveal a bright purple marital aid of the vibrating variety. Her face turned as pink as the bag, and she was embarrassed and hurt and let down, while the only other female worker at the plant laughed in her face and said, "This is for you and your fiancé." She was embarrassed, and there was an utter look of disappointment. Everyone else was laughing. She didn't know what to say, and the other girl took the bag back and said, "Well, if you're going to be that way about it, I'll just take it," leaving her with nothing. I was curious about what other people in the industry have gotten on said things, on said occasions. So I asked, and here are the responses. Someone responded, "This year I got an eighth of Kush and 64 ounces from a local amber brew ale." Sounds pretty good. Someone wrote, "In previous years, I got a live hamster." Which someone also said they got 3 live mice. And I am curious, were these just loose in a bag? Did it come in a cage? Was there a drip system or like one of those little bottle things with the ball in the throat that helps it so you could drink set up? What was... Because I would be like apprehensive if just someone handed me a hamster out of their pocket. I would be confused. How did they wrap the gift if it was a white elephant or a secret Santa? Did they just let it run around loose on the gift table? And the 3 mice. I always feel like a gift should be rewarding, and you never want to receive a chore. Like, oh, sweet, now I have to go deal with this. I have to go to the pet store and buy food. I have to, whatever. Someone responded that one year for Secret Santa, they got chlamydia. My response is, was this in, like, here's a napkin of it? Was it dripped? Was it on a, on a slide, pashmere? Or was this in a personal relations encounter where you failed to wrap up your gift and their gift just kept on giving? Seems like a very personal gift to give away at a company party. Someone said they once received a calendar of coworkers posing particularly nude, sometimes with meat cuts, as props. So, an erotic meat calendar of your favorite coworkers. To put in context, this is the female who sent me this. Now, I would be not that stoked if I received this gift from my coworkers. Sorry, guys, if you guys are listening to this. And if that's what you're thinking about getting me for next year, I'm glad I just put an end to that right now. I want to know if the pictures coincided with the themes. For July, there was a firework involved. October, a pumpkin. November, some leaves. December, a Santa hat vicariously placed. It being 2018, I'd be lying and remiss if I said that I had never sent the occasional erotic photo. Hopefully the cloud doesn't save everything. I'm not sure if I have the portfolio to fill a whole calendar. Someone responded, a bag of penis-shaped candies. I regifted it the following year to the person who got it to me. To which I reply, just shut your eyes and eat the candy. Candy is candy in the dark. Just take it. If it's a gummy, it's going to taste like a gummy in bear form or penis shape. And they told me it was lollipop shaped. Then just break it up and eat it as hard candy. Unless it's just not good candy. I can't imagine that the phallus-shaped candy makers of the world make the best candy. And the last one I got, continue with the innuendos and sexual immaturity and dick jokes, was someone got a penis molding kit from a coworker. Now, if this was a Yankee swapped or a white elephant, what would to ensure that this wouldn't be going to a female? Unless you work with only men. If I were to receive this gift, I would of course say thank you. Because thought and energy went into buying it. I just want to know what their intention was. If I were to receive this, I certainly wouldn't need it. I don't need a mold of myself. Is it something they were hoping that the person would do and then give back to them? It raises a lot more questions than answers in my mind. I want to know the manufacturers of these gifts in places of erotic stores, what their clientele is like during the holiday month, and what percentage of the products and novelty, quote-unquote, items that are being sold are going for their intended purposes. Or are they just going as the, haha, look at this. The comedic side of me wants to say that this is fine and this is fun and all that. Then the ever-growing woke side of me thinks back to how uncomfortable that woman's face was the first holiday party I ever went to in this industry, and how I'd never wished that upon anybody. The woman who bought her that purple vibrator certainly could have thought it was a joke and it was funny. But her friend didn't. She was embarrassed. She felt like she was the punchline of a joke. And I just want to err on the side of caution. And I think other people should, too. To play to your audience. And don't play for the cheap laughs. Don't buy a gift card. Don't buy penis-shaped things. Buy something that people may think is useful, or like what I have done in the past, something unrememberable, where you don't know what you've given or received. My fallback is usually searching the multi-tool list on Amazon, finding something in that price range, something weird that people could put in their wallet or their glove box, something they may use 3 times, but when they use it, they may find it useful or that it breaks. And we should stop contributing to the uneaten, unused, novelty penis-shaped items
given as white elephant gifts. And if you're at your local bar, escaping from your family, looking forward to Christmas Day or reminiscing about Christmas Eve, think about the things you've gotten for people in the past. Merry Christmas, the Meat Block. Now, if you excuse me, I gotta get back to this rip-roaring party.
Was a jolly, happy soul, with a corn-cob pipe and a button nose, and 2 eyes made out of coal. And with frosty snow.
All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this week's episode of the Meat Block Podcast. Hope you liked listening to me ramble for the last 25 minutes. And I want you to just be safe out there. Call a cab, call an Uber, call a Lyft. Don't drive. Not only because cops are out, but when you drink and drive, you really are just being a dick to humanity. Please be safe. Don't give the gift that keeps on giving. Always wrap your gifts. And if you enjoy this show, even though this episode was very loosely about meat, don't worry, we're going to get back to the meat-related topics. Stop worrying. Please leave us a review on iTunes. Please like, subscribe, and rate us. Please recommend us to a friend. Please support the Butchers of America team by checking out our GoFundMe. If you want to contact David, even though he wasn't on this episode, because he's having half-naked baked cookies. Yes. You could hit him up on a farm butcher on Instagram. You want to get a hold of me, I'm at American Butcher on Instagram and Facebook. You can also email me or David at themeatblockpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, keep your knife sharp and live in the margin. What up, meatheads? It's Travis, American Butcher, and this is the Meat Block Podcast, the weekly podcast by butchers for everyone. Sorry about that. I don't know if that picks up. Yeah, let me put my email notifications on mute. Sorry, that was just my fan email account, Travis Stockstill fan at Gmail. It's pretty annoying because every time someone emails me, it goes off, and sometimes I forget to put my phone on silent, and just goes off all the time. Yeah, so hold on. Let me just... sorry, hold on. It's and silent. No, nope. All right. Okay, I think I got it now. So again, welcome to the Meat Block Podcast. It's mid-December. We're getting the best and worst of lists coming out, and they are magnified right now because it is the end of a decade, my friend. Man, 2000 teens were kind of weird. Oh, you fucking dogs. All right, they're done eating, and they're just probably going to walk back again because they are annoying. Oh, here comes Max. He's being super annoying. I swear, if I was upstairs right now, they'd be like hogging all the bed and keeping me away from my wife. But since I'm down here, they feel an obligation to just ruin my life even further. It's like they have a vendetta against my happiness, either be it with intimacy or recording, because both those things are equal to me, equal on the scale of importance and dog annoyance. Anyway, it being December, this episode is more of a call. I want to hear your best and worst white elephant gifts, for one, because I just got done with a Christmas party at work, and I got some anecdotes about it.
Good cutting enhances the quality of good meat. Poor cutting results in an inferior piece of meat, regardless of quality.
So it's no secret that I haven't worked retail in a long time. And, because I work in a different part of the industry, and I forget what it's like to work in retail and customer service and things like that. And yeah, this story just happened to me a couple hours ago. It's a great tale of me doing the first Christmas shopping in person
I have done in years. The first in real life Christmas shopping, not online, in real life. So ever since me and my wife have been together, we've never gotten each other gifts. We'll give each other a card. It's more because we're either at a place financially where it didn't make sense, or we're actually like super poor, or we don't need to have a tangible thing to show that we care about each other. And also another thing is that if we wanted something and we're able to afford it, we would just get it for ourselves then. And another way that makes shopping for my wife difficult is because we have shared finances. So not out of like, so sometimes I feel like I'm economically held prisoner. That if I get gas at the Chevron, why didn't I get it at, Costco? Why did you go to this store? Why, blah, 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 blah. And I'm making my wife sound unpleasant. It's more of curiosity, I hope. So for me to even do Christmas shopping, I have to not have a tell. Like if I took some money out of our ATM, it'd raise eyebrows and go against this whole not gift giving thing, or whatever. Our happiness and our love is all we need. But also, I like capitalism and tangible things. Gimme. So I have an auto loan account that is just 100% in my name. So once a month I would take money out of a certain amount and then deposit it in there. But it would always be I would always end up taking out more just because of the way it broke down and how ATMs work. And then with the deposit. So after a year of doing this, I ended up with secret savings. And I could have been selfish and I could have, blown it on candy or a trip to Cabela's or a new gun or something cool like that. But me being the loving husband that I am, I wanted to surprise my wife with something that she mentioned that she would like. Now, on the off chance she will listen to this before Christmas, what she won't, because it would be weird, because she's never listened to an episode of this podcast, because she thinks that it's weird and awkward, just like how I don't enjoy listening to episodes of this podcast, because I also think it's weird and awkward. Then again, I do ask my 2 coworkers that I work with what they think of every episode. So today is Monday, the 16th. The trifecta happened today. I had the secret money, I got off work a little early, and the outlet malls are on my way home. So, knowing that if I went there before I went home, there would be no suspicion why I was late, because I got off about 40 minutes early. I go to the first store, get something, pick it out, put it in the car, drive to the second store, park, lock my door, and purchase the last half of my wife's gift. All said and done, took about 20 minutes. I thought I even had time to wrap it. Get back to the car, put my key in the door. Because I locked it, like I previously mentioned, that's called foreshadowing. And the key does nothing. Doesn't turn the lock, doesn't budge it whatsoever. I normally don't lock my car at all. I've had several cars broken into, including this one at the Seattle airport. But it wasn't broken into. They just opened the door and stole a bunch of stuff, and then, it was fine. They didn't break anything. That's why I don't lock my car, because I'd rather come back to, $20 worth of change and garbage stolen than a broken windshield. But with the first half of my wife's gift, I was a little nervous, so I just locked it. And it was a conscious thing where I was like, well, I should lock it now because I, don't want to have to deal with this. It's just something I didn't even think about. Now, my actual car that I drive is a Ram 1500. I haven't driven it in a couple months because of this lovely commuter car that I drive. It is a 2008 HHR. If you want to know what that looks like, just Google shitty, worse PT Cruiser. It's like if someone wanted to, it's like someone said, hey, let's make the PT Cruiser masculine, but it still just came out as a wet fart. If you're out there listening to this and you're driving a HHR, That's okay. I do too. And guess what? I recognize it sucks. People make fun of me when I go to the drive-thru. The people at Starbucks giggle and say, nice car. And I want to be like, hey, no, my actual other car is a cool pickup truck. As a man approaching middle age, showing insecurities of a junior high kid is unflattering, even to the 15-year-old who works at Starbucks. This 2008 HHR does not have a fob. And when this lock did not turn, most people would be like, oh, go unlock another door or the trunk and try to get in that way. Well, my friend, this car is uniquely designed with one key hole on the driver's side. I panic. What am I going to do? And being at the outlet malls, I see a security vehicle drive by. And I go, oh, awesome. This is a big parking lot, and this shit happens all the time here. They will simply have a coat hanger or an easy solution. So a security guard drives by a few minutes. I wave him down and explain the situation, asking simply for a coat hanger, or perhaps they had a Slim Jim. Now a security guard in this situation, whose job is theft prevention and security, said it was against their policy to supply such items for liability purposes. I assured them that they wouldn't be doing anything nefarious, and in fact, I would be doing the breaking in of my own vehicle. They just had to help me secure the tools. They stood their ground on their decision and their company policy and said sorry, and to feel free to let them know if I needed any more help. I politely smiled and said, you haven't been any help yet. And then they drove away. Now, an obvious thing is I could have called a tow truck and they could have come out there. But again, trying to be discreet with the fact that I am Christmas shopping with this secret cash that I have somehow procured, is I did not want to leave a paper trace of paying for a tow truck on a credit card. I'm 20 minutes into this endeavor, and I for sure thought I was going to be home with time to Christmas wrap. Looking at the clock, realizing my wife would be getting off work soon and starting her commute, I wanted to get this situation resolved so I could at least make it back home before she got there. I start taking an inventory of my resources. Call a tow truck. Call my wife. Call my father-in-law. Somehow break into my car. Break a windshield. Pry the door open. And I started to pry the door open. I was able to get my fingers into the car big enough where I could slip a wedge into the door. But I had nothing to wedge. I only had the tools available to me at the time. So I took off one of my windshield wipers, made a wedge with that, took off one of the shoelaces from the new pair of shoes that I bought as a Christmas present, and tied a key around it. Not my car key, an extra key, with a slip knot on the end of it. Dangled it through the door, trying to loop the lock button, cinch it, and easily let myself in. So I get it all the way down, but I'm about an inch too far out with the curve of the door to loop the lock, so I try wedging it and try to slap it towards it with the windshield wiper, releasing the tension that the door had created on the shoestring, causing it to fall all the way down, key and all, to my driver's seat. At this point, the security guard comes back with their lights, and I am thinking, oh my, maybe they took pity on me, got around their stupid policy, and are going to help me out. But that wouldn't be show-worthy now, wouldn't it? That doesn't work out. That's not how the real world works. They roll down their window, and I say, yes, are you able to help me? And they said, no, we got some complaints that someone was breaking into a car, so I'm just here to show that, we're on top of it and people don't need to call anymore. So now I'm trying to get into my car with an audience. Still turning the key, still with no result. the lock ain't budging. And I try the shoelace trick again with the second shoelace I have. I can't use my own shoelaces because I'm wearing Georgia Romeos. So I tie the other end of the shoelace, instead of having it loose, to the zipper of my hoodie. So if I let go accidentally, it's not going to fall. The security guard is coming up with helpful tips like, is it a fob? Maybe you need to get a battery. And asking questions, has this ever happened before? Now, my patience is running pretty thin by now. My wife is off of work and most likely going to be home. I'm going to have to admit defeat and ruin what I'm sure will be a great Christmas surprise. I call my father-in-law, the previous owner of the HHR, who I know has the original fob somewhere. I call him ring-a-ling-ling voicemail. And again, this is a man whose hearing aids are connected directly with his phone. So I know he's just leaving me on red and ignoring me. The third time he picks up, with a little bit of annoyance. I explain to him the situation, and I say, bring the fob, extra keys, a coat hanger, a pry bar, and a jacket. I'm freezing. I have been outside in 30-degree weather for the last 40 minutes with only a thin hoodie on. Some people would say, oh, that's nothing. Where I live, it's like, it's frozen all the time. It's like I live on Pluto. You know what? I don't care. I was fucking cold. Now, knowing my wife will beat me home, raising suspicion, I have to let her know something. I just send the basic text. My key won't work. Your dad is meeting me with a backup and tools. I will be home after you. No follow-up questions. Thank you. To where I was, what I was doing, etc. After a very long 18 minutes, he shows up with an arsenal which would allow us to break into every single fucking car in that parking lot. But wanting to rule out the obvious situation first, I take the fob, hit the unlock button, and it moves maybe 1/8 of an inch up. I hit it again and nothing. I put the key in, thinking that maybe with that little bit of movement, it will allow some give. And boom, I was in the car. And that is my Christmas retail horror story. Hope you enjoyed. I know this episode wasn't about butchery in any sense. Next week's will be in some way or another. But until next time, keep your knife sharp and live in the margin. And if you like personal insight in stories like this, please sign up to my Patreon, where I do Q&As directly with people, how-to videos, and share more about my life. Thank you. You dirty motherfucker, David. Ugh. Leave me on ring. The show.
Good cutting enhances the quality of good meat. Poor cutting results in an inferior piece of meat, regardless of quality.
Hello? No, I can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
Keep talking.
Check. How's that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound weak as
Check,
fuck.
check. I do?
Okay, now I can hear you better.
That's better?
Yeah.
Okay. Good enough, or do you need more gain?
A little bit more gain, and then secure your headphones, because I could hear delayed latency from me.
How about that? Is that better?
Check. Yeah. That's good.
Check. That's better.
It's better. It's not great. No.
Can you still hear it?
I'm going to turn you up on my end. Check. All right.
Check.
All right. That's good enough. How are you, David?
Okay.
Oh,
not bad.
That's why I couldn't hear it. My computer was turned way too low. All right. That was mostly my fault. Mostly. Are you there, David?
You there?
Yeah. Okay, I could hear you.
My internet's having a really hard time because we're having this crazy windstorm here, and whenever the wind blows like this, my internet doesn't work super well.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's cool. It's only a problem when we're trying to, if I'm trying to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, just make sure I'm secure because a little bit of me sinking in, sneaking in. I don't know. Maybe the latency is on my part. Hello?
How about now?
Perfect. All right,
Is that better?
David. Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Do you know what I say? I say Merry Christmas. Because I am
Yeah?
a war on Christmas veteran.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
say
no
Happy
kidding.
Holidays or do you say Merry Christmas? Hot takes.
I'm not super huge into celebrating Christmas, although I like to decorate for Christmas. I mean, no, I like Christmas, I guess. I
was gonna say,
but
we
I like
don't-
the whole holiday season.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hope we don't have a Scrooge on our hands here.
No, like, my birthday's a week before, and then it's Christmas, and then it's New Year's. I really like New Year's Day.
Was that tough growing
I think
up?
that's something that's, it wasn't too bad because, December, to me, after Thanksgiving, it's like the holiday season, and I get really excited. And being from Michigan, that's when like the snow really starts to fly, and the probability of having a snow day from school was pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I would lay in bed every morning I'd like wake up at 4:00 in the morning and turn on the local radio station on my Sony Walkman and wait for the weather report.
No, did your parents give you one big combined gift, or did they make a point to make it separate?
It was a mixed bag, depending on what it was.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 10, I got a little kind of 12-inch
Go on.
antenna television,
Okay. Nice.
and so I could watch baseball games, and that was like my big gift there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when I was growing up, for the big gifts, I would always argue because I'm November, which is nowhere close, but it's close enough when you're a kid. Be like, this could be birthday and Christmas, and then it never is because your parents cave and end up getting. They don't want you to open up nothing on Christmas, so.
Yeah. I've been trying to start this new thing where on Christmas we have like a feast and have a lot of food and get together, but on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day is when we exchange gifts, because I like to give functional gifts, and I think giving a gift that's relevant to your goals for the next year is a more useful gesture, I think.
That seems like you got to know a lot about the person.
Well, yeah, you don't want to be buying gifts for just anybody.
Mm-hmm. No, that being said, does your company do a white elephant, Yankee swap, dice game?
No, we had a Christmas party. Traditionally, Christmas parties have been held on a Wednesday or Thursday night for the company, and it was short, and then people didn't necessarily show up super well the next day. So this year we did it on a Friday night and went to the local Elks Club that we have kind of a good partnership going with, and it was great. It was short and it was sweet, and they, the Elks Club were able to host their bar and make a little money, and we didn't. It wasn't our alcohol, so that was good for us, and everybody kind of behaved themselves. Everybody was respectful and had a good time, and we were able to have a raffle so that everybody got something, which was exciting.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was good. The community got together, and there was some really good gifts that different places donated. I was very, very surprised. Our kill floor manager apprentice went out and got a bunch of cool things. Like one person won 3 trips to the chiropractor.
Whoa, that's useful.
Yeah, super useful. And then somebody else, I think, got some massages, and the one that I won a manicure at the local nail salon, but I traded that though.
Why? You don't like manicures?
Because I bite my nails.
And you're embarrassed?
I'm a nail biter.
Oh. Well, I'm sure you could have flipped it into a pedicure, David.
unless you bite your
That's
toenails.
that's probably that's gross.
Get that toe jam.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
What
How about you? What are you guys up to for the holiday?
Well, we had our company Christmas party like I've been going to company Christmas parties all December. I went to Melissa's the first weekend, then my company did theirs, and then we just had one side of her family gift exchange last night. And then on Christmas Eve we go to one family's house, and then Christmas Day we have brunch here, and then go to another family's house for dinner. So it's just all kinds of fun. And then hiding everything from Harrison, and then our company, we went to a Korean barbecue place that we went to last year, and it was really great last year. It was awesome. And this year, the service was atrociously bad. Like, you know how
Where was it?
At a Korean barbecue place in Mount Vernon.
Oh, good. Very good.
Yeah, and my boss, bless his heart, he's been to Korea a couple times, with previous employers and things like that.
Oh, a connoisseur.
Yeah, so if you know anyone who's ever traveled abroad and then been to a restaurant themed after a place they have been to or traveled to, it is horrible. The things they will point out that are different than when they were there. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's like almost as bad as sitting in a movie with somebody that's seen it before and they like narrate 3 seconds ahead.
Yeah. Or like seeing it with my mom for the first time, and she asked me what's going on the entire fucking movie, and it's like, Mom, we're in the same experience. I don't know who he is. He was just introduced.
Yeah.
Usually the women cook.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
This comes at the end of the meal. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, that sounds tough. That sounds pretty tough.
Yeah, I think also I've been on, keto, so that's why I wanted to go there. Was my vote is because it's very easy to just eat, meat at a Korean barbecue place. But there's no drinking there, and I drink liberally on my diet. But just coincidentally, earlier this week I was diagnosed with pancreatitis. So that's fun.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Shit, man.
So that
man, that sucks.
Yeah, my doctor thinks it's linked to a high fat, high protein diet.
Yeah, dude, that's literally the same thing that happened to me 6 months ago when I found out I was having liver issues. Same deal, man. Jeez, I feel for you. I wouldn't. I mean, that's the big lifestyle change.
Yeah. So once hopefully, well, it's acute, not chronic. So I get blood work done Monday, and then they'll they go from there, because I want to be back to my casually drinking self. Yeah, my doctor's like, how much do you drink? And I was like, not that much. I don't know, like 5 drinks a week maybe, cocktails. And she's like, okay, if it's 5 drinks a day for 20 years, then it would be alcohol related.
Yeah.
And then I just imagine, like, man, that would be fucking awesome. To have that much dedication to being an alcoholic.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that dedicated to anything.
No, I don't even know if I'm dedicated to this industry anymore. I'm joking, guys. No, I'm not. I don't know. Big Christmas sellers. What are you guys selling this year? We got unique orders down at the retail level?
Me?
And yeah, anyone in your company or been seeing any weird, unusual holiday trends or continuing
Yeah,
holiday.
well, nothing. I'm kind of fortunate. I think that the brunt of that happens in the retail shop, obviously, as we both experience people, people that want to come in and get the full effect, as it were, I guess. I think I told a story about a fellow that ordered an entire fresh ham trotter-on one year and then picked it up on the 21st or 22nd and said, "Oh, no, that's not at all what I wanted, even though you told me that that's exactly what it was going to be."
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with that too much. It's we have some. My company works with various retailers where we have our product, and we had some really great ideas by those retailers, kind of a little closer to the holiday than I would prefer. But we worked together and made it happen, and had a really constructive discussion about how we'll be planning the holidays for 2020 in May of 2020.
Okay.
And that's the kind of lead time I like to have. Give me 6 months.
6 months. Well, also, yeah. Also, it's
supply chain's hard.
Yeah, and it's cost effective to get your exports and things like that during that time of the year too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So, just little things to work on. I've had a lot of thoughts this time of the year when it comes to. I don't know. It's Q4. Everybody's getting their financial statements for the year back, doing your budget for the next year if you're not finished already. Planning throughput and whatnot, and so I think a lot of people are thinking about changes and innovations and improvements and things like that. How about you guys? Do you have any big lessons that you're carrying forward into 2020?
I have like personal lessons as far as like I can't force change on things that are out of my control. But again, I would like to have, as a wholesaler, orders in at a certain time, which I can't control. I would like to have, I want to have 3 lines running at the same time, but also that means someone who's not me has to find an outlet for all that product.
Yeah.
I want to get comfortable with staffing where people aren't going to feel reluctant to call in sick, because now everyone has this cold because one of our employees is like, I'm needed. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, you just came here, worked 20 minutes, and got us all sick.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah, and then just other things with training, and like I want to be staffed better and utilize my current staff in the positions they were supposed to be in, instead of having cleaners work certain lines and things like that, where it's just like, stick to cleaning. You're a cleaning person. But I don't know. Like we did our, we finished our big company audit. We have things mapped out for the next year. We mapped out production, and we have conversations about huge potential growth. But then again, conversations are great, but need to have contracts.
Yeah, it's true. It's something I've learned this year. It's the most important thing is sales.
Mm-hmm.
Sales are more important than production, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, like we supplied a lot of local grocery stores with, their premium rib roasts this year, selling up to 6 week dry age exports and things like that. So our volumes increase. We just need to maintain and further increase, but also meet our labor costs, or also adjust for our labor costs, I guess. Because right now we're overstaffed.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Well, it's weird
but
because
somebody always falls off though.
we're overstaffed and understaffed at the same time.
Yeah, heard. Same actually. Yeah, so true. Do you have anything interesting that you'll be investing in internally next year that you think will be a game changer for you? Any big changes operationally or anything like that you're excited about?
The big possibility of bringing on a second shift, as far as for added value, which would allow me the option to work some split shifts, which I actually do would enjoy that because it would allow me to have. People don't understand how great it is to have a day off in the middle of the week.
Yeah, so true.
So you could like go to the bank or go to the DMV or go someplace, go out to eat where there's nobody, there's no traffic. I get to hang out with my son, things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that for a personal thing. And then taking on a split shift, I would personally like to work that into 410s or possibly 312s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be beautiful.
But if I think it's in California. If part of the plant works different hours, the entire business has to work those hours. Do you have that issue in Washington?
I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that, though. What do you mean then?
Well, for instance, we used to my plant used to be 410s,
mm-hmm.
and now it's 5/8s.
Yeah. And
if we want to change back to 410s, we have to take a plant vote and then get it okayed by the state of California. From what I understand so far.
Oh. Yeah. No, I don't think we have to do that here. Washington doesn't really favor the worker as much as you would think. But
unless you're Jeff Bezos, unless you're a super hard worker like Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. I see those guys. They deliver packages to my house at 3 a.m.
Here's what drives me crazy. I'm going to rant. I'm going to get real crotchety here for a second.
All right. Do it.
This really chaps my ass right here.
Okay.
Okay. So walking out of a Whole Foods market,
mm-hmm.
there's a table. Now, I'm not trying to shit on Whole Foods. I definitely worked there for a long time and had a great time.
A lot of our listeners listen to Whole Foods. A lot of our listeners work at Whole Foods.
Yeah. Shout out to Bellevue Meat Department because that's one of the best crews I ever worked on. But so you walk out of a Whole Foods market right now and they've got a table set up.
Mm-hmm.
It's for donations to feed the hungry. Okay.
Okay.
Washington has a massive homeless issue.
Yes.
The owner of Amazon is the wealthiest person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't pay a cent of income tax to the state of Washington last year.
Yeah.
And has the unmitigated gall to say, of the shit that you just bought from me, give me some of it back for free so that I can donate it to someone who needs something. For Christ's sakes, if that guy spent less than 1% of everything he has, he could feed and clothe the world several times over.
Yeah, the thing that people, I don't know, I'm borderline about to get political.
I know.
There isn't right, there isn't left. There's people at the top and people at the bottom. And people I like nice things. I work hard. I like buying shit. I'm a capitalist through and through. But people have put this idea, everyone has in their head that this is their come up story, right? So people don't shit on the rich because people are like, well, this is my come up story. One day I'll be rich.
Yeah.
So you got the millionaires and billionaires. People always think they're in the same club. They're not. If you were to make $1 for every second, it would take you 12 days to be a millionaire.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love this stat, by the way.
If you were to make $1 for every second, it would take you 31 and a half years to be a billionaire. So that's a huge, that's miles and miles apart. So I don't know. I was just talking to people and they were talking political stuff, and take what I said as whatever. But I'm not going to vote for someone who's actively going to try to destroy and profit off of the working class. I don't understand how people could vote outside of their best interest. I don't know. It's just distraction. It's not. Politics is just a distraction to make money.
Yeah, totally.
All right. That's it for vague politic corner.
Yeah, we don't want to get our inbox like blown up over the holiday weekend, so let's just leave that there.
Yeah. I don't think that was that bad.
No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't that bad at all.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of sensitive Sallys out there.
Yeah. It's everyone just thinks like, man, I don't want to, mess with billionaires because what if I'm a billionaire? If you're listening to this, you're not, and you never will be, statistically.
Yeah. That's what my dad says too.
Yeah.
Oh, if I was a billionaire, then I wouldn't want people coming after my money. Dude, yeah, I don't know.
Oh man, I'm about to even go further. It's not that these people made their money either. It's inherited wealth that they're hoarding. Anyway, I'm done.
Yeah. So back to exciting goals and procedures for the following year. Do you have anything else?
I'm going to be a billionaire.
Yeah, there you go.
This next year. No, I don't know. Like personally, outside of work, I would like to get some work done around the house. Possibly build a tiny house in the back.
For me?
Yeah, for you to come and visit anytime. My personal real goals is to go fishing more and work out, and not just rely on diet to maintain a slimmer physique. Actually work on my body.
There you go.
What about you? Professional, then go to personal.
Professional goals. I would like to implement a leadership training course for all levels of, managers and aspiring managers within my plant.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have a comprehensive product specification guide, as well as a well-paced and thorough new product development program.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have solid leadership in place so that I can focus on 40,000 foot stuff, and I think that's about it for now, goals wise, for professional things. Personally, I'd like to get back out on the weekends and do some farm kills here and there. I'd like to play my guitar more. I would like to figure out how to, I don't know, someday I'd like to work remotely and live in Oregon and Washington again. That's a big personal goal.
Yeah.
And I'd like to take a vacation to Patagonia.
Really?
Yeah, I super want to. It doesn't have to be like anything fancy, but it just seems like I would like it down there.
This year?
I don't know. Or like, at least have a plan.
Okay. Have it booked.
Yeah, maybe something like that, or have a little bit of money set aside or something.
You know, me and Melissa have never been on an actual vacation.
No? Aside from just like short things, visiting family, but nothing like just for you guys.
Yeah. Not like we've been like, you know, like a weekend in Palm Springs is nothing when you live in Southern California.
Yeah, so true.
We've done that. We've, you know, visited family. I gotta go. Melissa just texted me saying Harrison threw up. David.
Yeah.
All right. We were just talking about how you never been to Patagonia, and I've never been on vacation. Then my son threw up for the second time this night. First time involving changing the sheets where he sleeps, and now changing the sheets where I sleep. So
sounds like you had too much Korean barbecue, eh?
Yeah. No, we go to this place called Margaritos. It's actually called David's, but it's actually not called either of those. It's called Dos Agaves. And Harrison just ate too much, but he calls it Margaritos because we all drank crazy margaritas when we're there, except for him. But maybe when we weren't looking, maybe that's why he threw up. But yeah.
Yeah, he's crafty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what else are you looking forward
to? Let's see, some things I'm looking forward to. You know, just tightening up efficiencies in the plant and applying some new things that I learned this year about manufacturing in general. And actually, I'm going to grab my notebook. Hold on, pause it.
Okay, David.
So I actually have a list of books that I want to share that I think people might find interesting. Books that I've read over the last year that I think can be pretty useful in a manufacturing sense or even just a productivity sense. Could be applied to a shop or to a slaughter business, to a packing house, whatever. The first book on my list is called The Goal. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of that one?
No. What? Tell me more about The Goal.
It's called The Goal. It's on Audible. It's a pretty great book, and it was written a long time ago. It was written in the 70s, but I think it's really still very applicable. So if you can kind of stomach the rampant misogyny and just sort of weird 40 or 50-year-old sensibilities of people and listen to the message, it's really interesting. And basically, it's a lesson taught through a story, and the idea is that there's this plant manager, and his boss has given him an ultimatum. He says, you've got 90 days to figure out how to turn the plant around, or else we're going to shut you down. And there's a lot more nuance to that. And I just want to share a couple of things that I took from it that I thought were super interesting, and highly encourage people to listen for themselves. It's really interesting. So one of the fundamental questions that they pose in the book is they ask, what is the goal of any business?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What do you think it is?
I
didn't get it right.
What do I think it is? The goal of any business?
Yeah. What's the goal of a business?
Well, I don't know. Sustainability, so it could be in business for a while, make money.
Okay, well, that's one way of saying it.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a couple chapters to get to the answer. But the answer is the goal of any business is to make money.
Oh, well, that's what my original thing was going to say, but I didn't want to sound like a dick.
No, it sounds so simple, right? I mean, it seems really simple, but it's not the first thing that comes out of our mouth. So it's kind of interesting because I'm sure we all in various ways are measured. Our productivity or the productivity of our teams are measured in different key performance indicators, and we have all of these different metrics that are really clever and interesting and extrapolate data about production. But they're talking about how on paper they look super efficient, but how they have all of this inventory stacked up and they're backlogged on orders and they don't know how to get caught up. And it's really interesting the way that they discuss productivity. And so there's this part where they're talking about productivity, and they say that productivity can be, productivity can be basically evaluated by 3 metrics only.
Mm-hmm.
The first of those is, and this, I thought that this really changed my perspective. The first of those 3 metrics is throughput. They define throughput as the rate at which the system generates money through sales, not production. So it's the rate at which the system generates money through sales. That's throughput, because just because you have a plant, you have to think about the business as a whole system, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if you have a plant that's really efficient and is producing all of this inventory and they have no sales to match it, you're not really productive. So the second metric, and again, they go through and explain this in a much more eloquent way as you go on. There's more details, but this is just to kind of get your appetite whet. The second metric is inventory, and they define inventory as the money that the system invests to purchase materials that they intend to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third metric is operational expense. And they define that as the money the system spends in order to turn inventory into throughput. And I thought that was really fascinating. And they go through to talk about different ways to apply those metrics through a story. And it's actually fairly engaging. And there's a couple, there's some kind of like steamy marital issues going on and some interpersonal things. And, but this is pretty fascinating. And one of the things that they talk about is, I don't want to spoil anything here, but one of the things that they stumble on is that the overall pace of a plant should never be any more than the flow of product through a bottleneck. And every system always has a bottleneck. So if you spend all your time trying to eliminate bottlenecks, you just create more. So you have to accept your bottlenecks, make them as efficient as you can, of course, but accept your bottlenecks and make the overall output of your plant and the operations on either side of the bottleneck match the throughput of that particular station or part of the flow. And that was like really groundbreaking for me. So I highly suggest this book to anybody that is kind of new to manufacturing or just understanding production metrics in general. I think it's a really juicy book to get into.
Yeah, and again,
second book on my list. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, name that book.
It's called the name of the book is The Goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's found on Audible. If you're like me, it's hard for me to find time to sit and read, but it's a lot easier to multitask when I'm driving or when I'm at home making dinner, listening to the book. And I've already put, this is an 11-hour book, which is pretty short, relatively, and I got through it quite quickly. And it's written by a fella named Eliyahu M. Goldratt. And it's The Goal, a process of ongoing improvement. Super interesting book.
Nice.
It introduces something called the theory of constraints, and this book basically changed how America does business. So I highly, highly recommend it. And it kind of touches on lean manufacturing, and that's probably something that we should do an episode about in the future. Is like just the concepts and rules of lean and whatnot. I know that's something that you know a lot about and you've implemented in your plant and had great results with it since you've been there.
Yeah, I like it. I think we should definitely do in depth and why and how, and look at it just
talk about the wastes. The wastes in general. It's amazing how much waste there is in a plant. Obviously we're not just talking about material waste here. We're talking about waste of all kinds.
Waste of time. Is just think of, when I was trained, it was like you start thinking about how many strokes you take on certain things, and then, the efficient way to do it to put less, strain on your body and things like that. It all breaks down into calculation.
Yeah, I was just explaining to a new teammate on the kill floor about skinning, and how all of the greatest skinners I've ever worked with have a very rigid pattern that they skin, and they never deviate from it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's just really basic lean
Yeah.
mentality.
Oh, yeah, and you could, just always tell when someone's new by seeing their score marks are like, 6 inches long versus those beautiful, like half side mark. Oh, yeah. It's so great to see someone who actually knows how to use a skinning knife,
Yeah, it's awesome. Another book that I'd really like to share with the audience, I think I mentioned this one before. It's called Radical Candor.
Mm-hmm.
And this book is told first person by someone who's worked in the tech industry. So a lot of it's not super relatable because at first it was kind of off-putting because it was talking about a lot of rubbing elbows at, Twitter and Google and Apple and all of these giant companies. But again, at the heart of it, there's a message and there's a lesson there. And this book talks about a style of communication that involves setting boundaries and setting expectations, while also, personally connecting with the people that you're speaking with. So, it was a big game changer as far as management for me, because it allowed me to form stronger relationships with people that I worked with directly, a lot of my direct reports, and my boss as well. And it kind of laid out a framework in which I was able to, like I said, set boundaries, set expectations, connect, and find a much more efficient, to the point and comfortable way of speaking about frank subjects.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great book. Again, it's a short one on Audible. I think it's less than 10 hours, if I remember correctly, and I highly, highly recommend it. The reader has just the most monotone voice ever, but it's really interesting, and I did take a lot from that one.
And again, the name of that book?
Radical Candor.
Radical Candor. Hope you guys are writing this down. I'll put it in the show notes.
A third one.
Upload this tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, please. A third one that I would highly, highly recommend. It's called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Mm-hmm.
This one's another one that's it's read through the lens of a story, and it's about a management team that works together in a sales-based company, and each character has a set of personality traits that all of us will find very relatable. Mm-hmm. Everybody has somebody on their team, like the people in these teams, and they talk about how to get over the communication issues and the ego issues, and you don't have to like everyone on your team, but you have to find a way to work together. And they show you how through a dialogue. And it's a very short book. I think this one's only 5 hours long, and that's a breeze. I mean, it really goes by very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. I highly recommend that. That one, again, is called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni.
Nice. So, guys, listen to that so you know how to work with your Jeremys.
Yeah. Let's see. A couple other ones that I highly recommend. Any of the Harvard Business Review HBR guides. They have one for project management, one for leading teams, one for finance basics for managers, better business writing, managing groups. There's a whole series of them, and they're really easy to read, and they're quick, but they're super full of information. So if there's any new managers or new supervisors out there, I highly, highly recommend going through the HBR or Harvard Business Review guides. They're very short, but super full of information, and they're all about 3 hours long if you're going to listen to them. And they're, again, all on Audible.
Nice. I saw a meme.
I've got a whole list, man.
Oh, nice. Well, put together the list. I'll put it on my Instagram and the show notes and everything like that.
Yeah, will do.
Yeah. I saw a meme where it was the book, Everything I Learned at Harvard, and then the right next to it was the book, Everything Harvard Didn't Teach Me. And
interesting.
And the quote was, everything you ever needed to know in the entire universe is in these two books.
Wow.
No, that's the joke there. Because
I like it.
yeah. I think another one of my goals is to, well, one, I got the World Butchers Challenge in September, so I need to.
Wait, it's in September? Why did I think it was in the spring?
No, September.
Oh.
And September 5th. So I got to do a lot of stuff with that. So that's not really a goal. I just need to be the best that I could which is, I also just need to do what I'm good at, but not get in my head. That makes sense. And I would like to explore other ways of creating income is another goal of mine as well.
Yeah, same.
You know, I have the Patreon going again. Check it out. Yeah, but I'm just interested in seeing. I have some prongs in the fire, but I want to. Hopefully, some things pan out.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping we can do a couple more consulting projects in 2020.
Yeah, I'd like to as well. I've gotten a couple inquiries, but this time of the year is awful.
Well, if anybody out there is in a NOE, if you need someone to write your systematic, robust approach to humane handling, if you have any questions about food safety, writing HACCP plans,
general flow, and management training tools, let us know.
Yeah. Or if you're a homesteader or a farmsteader and want to talk about farm kills, feed your family and your neighbors.
Yeah. Or how to responsibly get rid of bones and things like that because, you're in an unhappy marriage. Let us know.
Yeah.
I'm saying David will kill your wife. Do you know what was your highlight of this last year, real quick?
Highlight of this last year. Wow.
This last decade. Year, then decade.
No, I can't do the decade. Let's see. The highlight of this last year.
Because we're closing out a decade in a week, David.
It's true. Well, that'll be our next episode. Okay. Of 2019, I think probably... Man, that's a tough one. I ate some really, really good food in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What about you? What's yours?
Chicago was really fun. We didn't get to hang out that much, but just walking the floor and doing those demos was fun. Doing stuff with the team is fun. I'm going to go skiing next week with Harrison for the first time, so I imagine that will be one of the best ones.
Nice.
Harrison caught his first fish this year. And I got a lot of great feedback when you said you had to go to the bathroom, and I just kept recording that one time. A lot of people enjoyed that. So, yeah.
One of my highlights, there was a day where I took a really long bike ride and had a picnic. That was good. That was a good day.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I've taken some really, really good hikes in the Siskiyou Mountains this year, too. That's been really good.
Yeah. One of my goals is to enjoy the water more.
Yeah, there you go.
I see it every day when I wake up, but oddly enough, I have so much other shit that I can't even enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I'm hoping by the end of 2020 I've got a plan for how to restart my flock too. That's another one.
Yeah.
Anyways, I could ramble on about this, but I think what would be great is if our listeners could send us a list of their goals, and we could read some goals off next year and just put those out into the world. And
yeah, I'll send out a banner.
Be really
tomorrow.
intentional. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. So, all right. Until next time, keep your knives sharp.
And live in the margin.
All right. This is the Meat Block. I'm Travis, and
David.
There's delayed latency. All right, bye.